Oh, the wonders of technology, eh? Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Dacorum Borough Council's Development Management Committee. My name is Councillor Garrick Stevens, and I'm the chair of the committee. Our vice chair is Fiona Guest, who's sitting here in front. The other members of the committee in attendance at this meeting are, starting at the back, Councillor Madden, Councillor Allen, Councillor Bromham, Councillor Jankowski, and at the front here we've got Councillor White-Lowe, Councillor Stewart, and Councillor Fiona Guest. There are a number of council officers in attendance.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, but the councillor sitting next to me is Councillor Stuart Riddick.
You're right. I've done it again, haven't I? Sorry about that, Stuart. Councillor Riddick. Thank you. There are a number of council officers in attendance, led by Philip Stanley, who's head of development management. We have Andrew Parrish, who's going to be presenting on the first application 5A for the Lidl store. And we've got Rachel Payne, who's going to be presenting on item 5C, which is the last application. Item 5B, in fact, has been taken off the agenda because the parish council and ward councillor have withdrawn their objections. We've now also got in attendance, I've got it right this time, I think, Councillor Walker. We're not expecting a fire drill this evening, but if the alarm sounds, please make your way to the ground floor and assemble outside. If the meeting is extended, there may be a comfort break during the meeting at around 9 p.m. And before we start, please mute or turn off your mobile phones. We've got a few housekeeping items before we get to the application. The minutes. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the last meeting of the council, which was held on the 27th of November. The minutes have been circulated. Can I have your agreement to sign them? Agreed? Thank you. Apologies for absence. We have an apology for absence from Councillor Durrant. Declarations of interest. The next item on the agenda are declarations of interests. Please can I remind members to declare any disclosable pecuniary or other interest at the beginning of the relevant planning application. Any member who declares an interest will be allowed to stay in the meeting but will not have the right to vote. I also want to remind members that only those present during the entire debate for an item are entitled to vote on it. In terms of public participation, remind members about the rules regarding public participation. And we have a ward councillor, I think, is the only person wanting to speak on the item. Our normal practice is to bring forward applications where a speaker is present. But I think as it's a ward councillor, I think we will waive that one this evening. You'll be invited to address the meeting when the item you're registered to speak is to be discussed. The normal procedure and rules in respect of times to speak will apply. Where more than one person is speaking on a planning application, the shared time is increased from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. Ward councillors will be entitled to their own 5 minutes to speak. And speakers in objection are taken first. A timer will be displayed on the screen and times will be strictly enforced. And members of the public will not be entitled to take part in the discussion that follows the public speakers. And I have the discretion to remove any member of the public from the meeting if they interrupt, try to engage in the discussion, or are abusive. For each application, the officer will present the report to the committee. Then the participants from the public are called to speak. Following this, questions are taken from the committee along with statements and comments for debate. There will be a vote among councillors which will represent the decisions of the committee. Now, the first item on the agenda is item 5A. 1567, and is the construction of a food store and associated car parking, landscaping and engineering and drainage works for Lidl at Gossoms End in Berkhamsted, Hertfordshire. Councillor Jankowski.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare on item 5A, I'm intending to stand down, having taken legal advice. I attended the consultation back in June as a resident before I was elected and completed a feedback form. So there's an argument to say I'm predetermined on item 5A, so I'll stand down from that item. Thank you.
Thank you for your declaration. I have a similar declaration, but in fact, I've been involved in the Lidl application for well over 10 years, including the current gestation of it. And having been involved in it, I can tell you it's very different from the one that we started with. And I can honestly say that I can come to this meeting with an open mind, with my views to be taken from what my fellow colleagues have to say on the subject. I'm coming to this with an open mind. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. As you've already explained, this is an application for a food store and associated car parking, landscaping, engineering and drainage works at Gossoms End, Berkhamsted. It's effectively an amendment to the 2014 permission, which subsequently proved unviable because of the housing element, and which officers accepted at the pre-application stage based on an independent financial viability assessment review. The scheme before the committee, therefore, excludes the housing element and proposes 1,900 square metres of gross external convenience floor space, slightly less than the extant scheme. Officers have worked hard with the applicant during the application process to get it to a position where we are happy to recommend a delegated approval. In particular, amendments to satisfy the Environment Agency into buffer zone requirement have been made. There's an updated information has been provided to enable the Highway Authority and the lead local authority to remove their objections, subject to conditions. And amendments address a significant number of design and landscape concerns in accordance with improvements recommended by the Principal Urban Design Officer, notably the omission of the projecting canopy to help mitigate the forward sighting of the building and to allow some tree planting, the addition of brick piers to break up the glazed frontage, and the addition of some street planting to help soften the building and maintain the rhythm of the street. So, in considering the proposal tonight, members should not take into account the advertisements shown on the plans, because these will be forming part of a separate application under the separate advertisement consent regime. It should be noted that the Berkhamsted Town Council only raises concerns with the application, and the reason the item is before the committee tonight is because of the significant public interest. Turning to the update sheet, as shown on this slide, there are some additional conditions to be added. These are from the lead local flood authority, who have provided their formal comments now in response to the drainage issues. They are proposing 4 conditions there, which I've included in this slide, just so that members are aware what they are, and these would effectively replace condition 11. A further minor amendment is proposed in response to the Principal Urban Design Officer comments, and this is in respect of condition 9, the landscaping, to to simply add an additional bullet point to seek additional details of irrigation. Members should also refer to the addendum sheet, which has been circulated and published, for additional commentary on various aspects, including delivery hours and the amended conditions. So in regard to the delivery hours, the applicant's briefing note, which is included in the addendum sheet, creates a little bit of further confusion. This states that delivery hours were would be between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., whereas the applicant's noise report is clear that delivery hours are between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. So therefore an hour difference. And the noise report also states that there would be no harm to residential immunity, and the environmental health officer has confirmed that he does not object to these longer hours, i.e. the 11 p.m. stop, provided these are made a condition of approval. Condition 3, therefore, in the addendum sheet has been amended accordingly. Despite the briefing note, the introduction of more restrictive hours would put us a little bit on unsteady ground as an appeal, so it is not recommended that those hours be reduced. There are some corrections to the report. Paragraph 2.1 in the summary incorrectly states that the application is recommended for approval. To be clear, the recommendation is to delegate with a view to approval. And paragraph 2.1 again also incorrectly states that the site is 1 kilometre southwest of the town centre. It's actually northwest of the town centre. Moving to the next slide. So the site is shown on the location plan to the left and is approximately 1 kilometre from the town centre in Gossoms End, situated near the Billet Lane and Gossoms End junction. The site is already cleared and awaiting development, as shown on the aerial view. The northern boundary is marked by a partly culverted river, the culverted river Bulbourne, with the Billet Lane general employment area to the north of that, which is identified by the white shark's tooth roofs. The site wraps around two sides of Majestic Wine to the southeast of the site, and there is also a short frontage with Billet Lane. Opposite the site to the south is the Berkhamsted Sports Centre, sports space. Turner Court comprises flatted development to the west of the site, and beyond that is the Grade 2 star listed Edgeworth House and its grounds, which are marked on the plan there, on the aerial photograph. And then Lagley House sits opposite Turner Court, just for reference. Moving to the next slide. These are two photographs of the front of the site from Gossoms End, shown by the extent of the hoarding there. Turning to the next slide. These are two photographs of the site itself. The top photo shows the site behind the frontage hoarding, looking towards Billet Lane general employment area, with Turner Court to the left, as marked. And the bottom photo is from Billet Lane, looking northwest towards Turner Court, with the tree to the left, forming part of the 1971 area TPO, and also the River Bulbourne marked on the right-hand side behind that fence. The next slide shows the view from Turner Court to the west of the site. Clearly the hoarding surrounds the site. And the next slide is of a view from Billet Lane and Riverside Gardens, where pedestrian access footpath improvements are proposed. Again, I've marked where those improvements would take place. So turning to the next slide, this is a view from the general employment area to the north. So the top photo is a view from Billet Lane employment area with the site on the right. The bottom left shows the line of the River Bourbon behind the fence with the site beyond. The bottom right photo is the culverted section, and I've marked the area of the culvert for clarity by the two dotted lines. And the top right photo is just showing the existing Bourbon at the time of my visit. It's clearly showing that it's, despite the rain, it's actually not full at all, which is surprising. But then again, not surprising because it is a chalk stream. Turning to the next slide. These are showing the surrounding context. The top photos are of the Billet Lane employment area, the right one as viewed from Turner Court. And the bottom photos show Majestic Wine and the Billet Lane Gossoms End junction. Turning to the next slide. These are the land opposite the site at Magley House, the left photo, and sports space on the two right photos, just to provide the context of the site. The next slide shows the view of Turner Court and Magley House opposite, with the site in the background. And the next slide shows the listed Edgeworth House on the top right, and a view looking back towards the site, showing that the site would be barely visible from the listed building. So it's concluded that there will be no harm to its significance as a result of any effect on its setting. Moving to the plans now. So this is the site plan, the overall site plan, with the building is sited to the left or to the west side of the site, therefore helping to shield Turner Court flats from the car park access and customer entrance. The vehicular access, as shown, would be from Gossoms End and would include the introduction of a ghost island right turn filter lane. The justification of the two exit lanes is to be sought under condition 17 as recommended by Herts Highways. The proposal includes 77 parking spaces, including 2 active EV bays and 19 passive bays that could be later converted to provide electric charging points. And then there's access shown on the plan from Billet Lane via some steps. And the plan also shows the location of the roof-mounted plant area to the north of the building near the delivery bay. Moving to the next slide. This is just the floor plan and shows the overall external floor space of 1,911 square metres and the sales area of 1,235 square metres. Following plan is the roof plan. That shows the solar panels. The next plan shows the four elevations. So the top one is the frontage, showing a glazed shop front with the brick piers. The second from top is the rear elevation, relatively plain brickwork, but would only be visible from the industrial area to the rear. The second from bottom elevation is the Turner Court elevation, which would be broken up with a mix of brick render and brick piers. And the bottom is the drawing from the car park elevation, showing customer entrance to the left and the delivery bay on the right. Moving to the next slide. This is just the general palette of facing materials. These would comprise aluminium curtain wall, polyester powder coated external doors, dark and light multi-brick and white render, together with light grey metal roofing. These would actually be, the details of these would be for approval under condition 6. Moving to the next slide. This is the external materials layout and boundary treatment plan, which shows a mix of block paving, tarmac for the car park, surfacing and footpaths, and various types of fencing around the site. It should be noted that the fencing to the Bullbourne is to be agreed separately under condition 13 with the Environment Agency. And this, as an aside, this also shows the culverted section of the river, just so you're clear where that is. Moving to the next slide. So this is the soft planting plan. Plan shows the proposed soft landscaping with further details sought under condition 9. And as recommended by Office, the latest edition of this plan includes the 3 trees to the front of the store building, an additional tree within the car park, and retention of trees within the Bullbourne 8-metre buffer, all as agreed with officers. And details of the 8-metre buffer planting would be sought separately under condition 12 for agreement with the Environment Agency. Move to the next slide. So the next couple of slides show an artist's rendition of the development. This one's looking west, and these two, yeah, and the next two, one looking east, and one's just a close-up of the entrance area and the access. This is the access and services plan showing a delivery route for servicing vehicles, and in the blue and black dashed lines, and the pedestrian access from Billet Lane indicated there in grey, and also customer entrance, just to, so you're clear where that is. Turn to this plan. So this is the outdoor lighting plan. Obviously it's quite technical, but it just shows the lux levels across the site from the outdoor lighting within the car park and affixed to the building. So you've got 2 contours there showing the 0.1 and 0.5 lux contours, but the lux levels increase to about 30 lux within the main car park, so they drop off quickly at the site boundaries, and importantly, subject to the Environment Agency agreement to the details, would have an acceptable relationship to the River Bullbourne buffer. What I would point out is that this plan is for further agreement because the layout doesn't accord with the latest site layout, particularly in relation to the buffer and the car parking shown there. Move to the next plan. This is just showing the Environment Agency flood zones. So the slide shows part of the car park falls within zones 2 and 3. So applying the sequential test, as there are no reasonably available alternative sites with a lower flood zone to the site car park, the exception test must be applied. So we basically go through 2 tests. There's a sequential test as required by the NPPF, which this technically doesn't pass, so you have to apply the exception test. But the exception test does not apply in this case, as the use is classified as less vulnerable in accordance with the Annex 3 of the NPPF. So therefore, we conclude that the proposal complies with paragraphs 175 of the NPPF. It's also the case that it's only the car park that would be within the flood zones, and the actual building would avoid being within the flood zone. Moving to the next plan, this is the drainage, the latest drainage and SUDS layout. Basically, there's a cellular tank storage under the eastern part of the car park, as shown there, and there will be a controlled outflow to the river. The objections of the lead local flood authority effectively have been resolved, subject to further details by condition. So that some further details of the drainage layout and the calculations have been sent by the applicant to the lead local flood authority, and the response back, the formal response, in fact, this morning, is that they have no objection, subject to the 4 conditions that I pointed out right at the beginning. Last slide. So this is the footpath and crossing improvements that the applicant has put forward following their safety audit, and these involve upgrades to the footpaths along Billet Lane and the crossings as shown. So further details of these would be sought by condition in accordance with Herts Highways recommendation. So the recommendation is on page 30 of the agenda, basically to delegate with a view to approval, subject to the completion of a Section 106 agreement to secure the obligations listed, and to the conditions on pages 30 to 37, as amended by the addendum sheet and also orally in my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Right, we have no speakers on the item. So, colleagues, over to you. Questions to the officer? Comments?
Just want to know a bit more about the methodology by which it was calculated that the housing was not viable. I find it surprising to hear that you can't make a profit on putting housing in Berkhamsted. So I was wondering if there's any more information about the methodology by which that calculation was made.
I wasn't personally involved in the pre-application discussions because they took place before we received the application, but they took place with other colleagues at in the planning department. But basically, they would have, or they have submitted a financial viability assessment, which would indicate that the scheme was unviable with the affordable housing, and also indeed with just general housing. So we sent that to an independent review surveyor to review whether that sat accordingly in terms of normal protocols, and the response back was that they agreed with the report. So we have had it independently adjudicated and found to be not wanting in any way. So the result of that is that we agreed with the recommendation that the scheme with the affordable housing and indeed with general housing would be unviable. And on that basis, we accepted the omission of the housing.
You have a follow-up? No.
I'll press the button. Yeah, just to continue from Councillor Allen's point, is the efficient use of the space a planning requirement? For example, could the roof be used for parking or something like that, because it is quite a highly densely populated area and only 1 mile from the station?
I mean, that would be really a question down to the economics of providing a strengthened roof, I guess, to the building and how that stacks up. And also you'd have to provide ramps and everything to use the building. But I accept your point that, you know, it seems like a better use of land. But I think that Lidl would have done their homework and found that their standard layout is their preferred model. I'm not actually aware of any Lidl schemes that have proposed roof parking. So I can't really answer that any more than I have.
Yeah, so it's not a planning requirement then?
Well, we feel that it does make good use of land. It brings forward land that's been vacant since 2014. So we feel that there is a case to support the development. There is also support for in the retail study for so the retail study update 2024 for convenience floor space in Berkhamsted. That previously, in fact, didn't exist in the 2009 retail update study, and the only support for it was on qualitative terms, that there was an absence of a discount type facility in Berkhamsted. But now we do have the qualitative and quantitative support for a food store in Berkhamsted. Yeah.
Philip, you looked as if you were going to make a comment.
Well, Andrew's covered the point in terms of good use of vacant land. The only other thing I guess I could mention is that with all planning discussions, there's always a balance between maximising or maxing out the site versus the eventual impact on the character and appearance of the area. And obviously, once you're introducing roof parking or introducing extra heights, ramps, which would then be contrary to the character of the area. So there's always a balance in these points as well.
Councillor Madden.
Thank you. I know this part of Berkhamsted very well. I used to work down there. I think it's about time we had some a discount or a budget food store in Berkhamsted, to be honest. I think it's suitably outside the more historic high street, so it won't cause so much sort of harm to have such a big modern building there. Also, with regard to the discussion about the parking on the roof, I mean, Lidl are a very experienced retailer. They know what they're doing and they know what they're applying for and they know what they think that they need. But also, I think if there was parking on the roof, I think that there might be an awful lot more objection locally because the visual aspect of that would be a lot more offensive, if you want to use that word, to people passing by. It wouldn't be as aesthetically pleasing or less aesthetically displeasing, maybe, whichever way you want to look at it. So I think this is a really good use of the land, and obviously if other people want to speak first, but otherwise I would like to propose officer recommendation to approve. to delegate to approve. Thanks.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the correction. Right. Any other comments? Good gracious. Oh, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, just tidying up a few of the objections that were made by residents about the light pollution from a car park, particularly for Turner's Court residents. Has that been, satisfactorily resolved or mitigated?
Yeah, I mean, the lighting situation, as I showed on the lighting plan earlier, but we've asked for an updated plan to reflect the latest layout, which takes account of the change to address the EA objection on the 8-metre buffer. In terms of the light pollution, the plans or the details show that so that lighting will be directed in a downward direction. Of course, the car park will not face upwards towards Turner Court. You've also got the fact that the building provides a good level of shielding from the car park, and any lighting would be mitigated by that building. It's also the case that, that the lighting will be turned off automatically half an hour after closing and would turn on half an hour before opening. So the impact on residential amenities will be further reduced as a result of that, and certainly reduced in terms of the surrounding environment. So the proposals have been well thought out in terms of the lighting. There needs to be some lighting to the car park to obviously serve the customers of the store, but those have been designed to have minimal impact on the Turner Court residents.
And if I may, the other query I had was, but there was a very prominent opening of a store in Hemel, Hempstead not so long ago, and presumably that was done on the basis of traffic surveys and so on. Yet Jarman Park was brought to a standstill with all the new turners into that car park. Are we sure that this turning arrangement across traffic heading northwards is actually going to be sufficient to deal with the amount of cars going into the store?
I have to revert to the hire engineer's technical expertise on this. So I understand that they have no objections in terms of traffic impact on the local road network. Their only concern is in regard to the width of the access, and they had raised concerns that the 12-metre wide access would kind of represent a safety issue for pedestrians and cyclists walking up Gossoms End across the access. So they have asked for justification for that access, and whether that can be actually reduced in width. If it can't be reduced, or they give justification why the current width is acceptable, in particular the 2-lane exits, why that is acceptable, then they're happy to accept it. But if it's not justified, and I have no reason to believe that they can't justify it, then the only effect of that would be to reduce the width of the access to 1 lane out, as opposed to 2 lanes. But that will only have an effect in the car park. It will only back up traffic within the car park, not on the street. There is they are proposing hatched yellow lines within Gossoms End to ensure that right turning traffic out of the site can turn right and not be impeded by traffic queuing for the actual traffic lights. So that's my understanding of how it all works. The highway engineer has not raised any objections in terms of traffic impact.
And so finally, Chair, there's no concerns about the turning right out of the car park clashing with those turning right into the car park. I mean, it suggests that they might well get in the way of each other, and that turning bay will be getting in the way of exiting traffic, which does seem a little bit odd.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this would work like any type of similar junction for any superstore or retail park where you have a similar situation. You know, I can't really talk for the actual arrangement that's proposed there, only to say that it seems like that's kind of arrangement you'd see on many types of development. And as I say, the Highway Authority haven't raised any objection.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there has been a lot of support for this, both in terms of the market segment and in terms of its geographical location. And I even heard people spontaneously say that on the doorstep when we were canvassing sometime a while ago. So on that basis, I would support the application. So I would second the delegation with a recommend to approval.
Yeah, just literally following on from Will's question to Andrew about the traffic turning right out of the car park and getting confused with the traffic turning right into the car park. It's really no different from things like the end of St John's Road turning right into Station Road. Exactly the same road markings. Just thought I'd mention that.
Any further comments, questions? By consent to move to a vote. So we have a proposer by Councillor Madden to accept this recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Ross. Can I have a show of hands, those in favour of this recommendation, please? All in favour? Any objections? Objections? So officer's recommendation is carried. Thank you. So we move on to item 5C. I omitted to mention that we have as our legal advisor, make sure we are on the straight and narrow. In the meeting, Kelly Johnson, as noticeable, making sure that we have the and record the minutes. Right. I'm not going to repeat that, but yes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So this application site is 28 Charlesworth Close, Hemel, Hempstead. This application is at committee this evening as it's been called in by a ward councillor. And the development is for the retention of an existing detached garage to the rear of the property, and it's a retrospective application. Just to make members aware, we received a late email from Councillor Deacon after the addendum was published. This email detailed the main reasons for objection and included a series of photographs. This email was circulated to members before the committee meeting and included a response from the case officer. So this slide shows the site location plan. The application site is a mid-terrace dwelling and is shown here marked in red. The rear of the application site abuts Cedar Walk. Here is the proposed site plan. As you can see, the garage is located to the rear of the garden, such that the vehicle entrance to the garage is located on the south side of Cedar Walk. So here are the existing elevations of the outbuilding, which was located in the rear garden previous to the constructed garage. It was in a similar location to the constructed garage, and it is noted to be a smaller size to the proposed. Here are the proposed elevations of the outbuilding. It's been constructed in composite cladding with a shingle roof. The garage is readily visible from Cedar Walk as the rear boundary fence has been removed to provide access to the garage. The garage is approximately 3.7 metres in height and comprises of a pitched roof. Given the varied street scene of Cedar Walk and the lack of architectural interest of the fencing which lines the rear of the properties along Charlesworth Close, it's not considered to result in a significant adverse impact to the character and appearance of the area. So this is the existing floor plans of the previous garage outbuilding. So this garage was much smaller depth to the proposed, and it is noted that whilst it is labelled as a garage on the plans, we are aware that this building was not previously used to store vehicles by the applicant. So this slide shows the proposed floor plans of the garage. So this garage is of a sufficient size to meet the parking standards SPD, as it measures 6 metres by 4 metres, so we can reasonably consider it an off-street parking space. This garage is also not considered to result in any adverse amenity impacts, and there is also considered to be a sufficient rear garden space retained for existing and future occupiers of the dwelling. So the next few slides just show a few site visit photos. As you can see, this is the front and rear of the garage. The garage is confirmed by highways to be served by a dropped curb. This shows the side of the garage. And finally, again, this is just the proposed site plan. So in summary, the retention of this detached garage is considered acceptable. It is served by a drop curb, and therefore there is not considered to be a net loss of parking. The garage is also of a sufficient size, so we would consider it to be an extra off-street space to park a vehicle. Hertfordshire Highways have commented on this application and have stated that they don't believe that it gives rise to any unacceptable impacts on highway safety, and therefore this application is recommended for approval for the reasons outlined in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a speaker in Councillor Deacon, ward councillor, who's speaking in objection.
Okay, hope you hear me. Okay, so in my 2.5 years, this is the first. No worries. Thank you. Yeah, so as I said previously, it's the first time in 2.5 years that I've visited this committee, because normally if I feel or residents feel things are 50-50 or 60-40, I'll leave it up to the experts. But my comments are of the residents of Cedar Walk, and I've spoken to 12. I do feel there are some slight discrepancies which I'll touch on to, because I do not believe there was an existing garage. It looked like a wooden shed. There was certainly no, access. It was a fence. And it's always been a fence. You've got some photographic evidence of that in the email I sent. I do not feel there's ever been a drop curb, which I'll touch on to. There was no proper communication with Cedar Walk. The 3 letters that went out were just to Charlesworth. The people that would be objecting to this are the residents in Cedar Walk for the lack of parking, and no letters were sent to any of those. And of course, as you'd say, residents of Cedar Walk are not very happy. When a resident of Cedar Walk contacted me, I did approach the builders who claimed they had planning permission, and then I had to report it to the enforcement team. The thing to note is, building didn't stop, the building continued. Rather than wait for this committee, the building continued for several weeks to completion. The big reason for residents of Cedar Walk is the parking. I've sent some photos of how terrible the parking is. It's bumper to bumper. Some houses in Cedar Walk do not have the ability to have a garage of their own. There's off-street parking. It's very close to a very dangerous corner, and you can see where families and children walk to school. Most often they are, forced to walk in the road. It's the narrowest part of Cedar Walk, and I'm no expert. But even if this was approved, I think the garage is in the wrong location. It should be set back. In my opinion and residents' opinions, the car will be driving blindly onto the pavement, which we believe represents a health hazard. In regards to the drop curb, I spoke to 3 residents who have lived there for over 50 years. And I've given you a photograph of what is officially a drop curb in our eyes in Cedar Walk and what isn't. And on that path, it was a badly maintained path that sunk, and with the tarmacking, had actually risen the road level to the sunken path. So if we believe that this is a drop curb, I think half of Cedar Walk would have a drop curb and unable to park anywhere. You've also got a photograph of, and in fairness, the presentation I've just seen does ease my worries on that. You've got a photograph of what it always looked like. It was a fence across, and it was never open to any car, because people didn't really see that as a drop curb. Cars have always parked on there, and residents really, the biggest worry is that they're going to lose another car parking space in already a terrible place to park. You're the experts. I'm not sure about this, but obviously the Charlesworth Close who's built this to open up into a different road, their own driveway is 3 times bigger than any other driveway in Cedar Walk. The houses either side have got garages, so I'm not sure whether at one time a previous occupant had a garage that's converted to residential space. But in Charlesworth Close, they have all also got their own parking. So if parking is tricky in Charlesworth, why make it worse somewhere else? I think I've covered all my points. Speaking to residents, the worst case scenario for them, would be just to stop vehicle access in and out of one road to another. Of course, some do think it's unsightly, but they're reasonable with just allowing it to remain there. But it's just the parking issues that this application, if approved, would cause, especially with it being very close to a very, very dangerous corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping to time. So, members, questions to officers, comments?
Sorry? Is it me first? Sorry. I know this road very well. It's obviously in my county council division, and it's a really difficult road, to park in. Cedar Walk, not Charlesworth. I've been asked at times to consider putting double yellow lines in this road, in parts of this road, because of the tight corners. I wouldn't want to do that ever, because I absolutely understand how difficult it is to park in that area of town. But I'm not really asking questions, I'm just really voicing my concerns. I do have concerns about this this garage. I don't see a planning reason to refuse. I don't like it. I don't like what's happened here. But I can't see a planning reason why we could be refusing this tonight, unfortunately. So it was just really voicing my thoughts. The fact that I do know the area very, very well.
Thank you.
I just wanted to explore the county council's position on whether or not it's a drop curb, because presumably there must have been at some stage an application for there to be a drop curb put in place there, and that they have a record of or don't have a record of. And there does seem to be some uncertainty here. Looking at the photos that have been submitted, the nature of the curbstones are not ones that, in my understanding, are usually applied when there's a drop curb. They tend to be slightly bigger. So this supposition that it's a dropped pavement, not a dropped curb, seems to be supported by that. So in confirming that there was I'll bring it to a question. In confirming that there was a drop curb there, are they confirming that there's an actual application and a drop curb have been put in, or what is the level of their confirmation?
Thank you. Yes, so I spoke to Hertfordshire Highways a lot of back and forth on this application. They have stated that their records don't go back this far, so they can't confirm whether there was ever an application for it. However, they have assessed it. They have stated that there's evidence from Street View that the footpath has been strengthened for vehicles to drive over it. And it is obviously it's of a lower standard than your kind of average drop curb. So highways are happy to accept that this is a drop curb, given obviously what I've just said, and obviously they wouldn't enforce against someone kind of driving over this drop curb as such. So yeah, we've assessed that and accepted that it is a drop curb.
Anybody else? Comments? Yep. Councillor Madden.
I'm just coming back with my highways hat on here. I'm guessing from what Will's just was saying, do you mean that most drop curbs are deeper?
The paving slabs?
No.
No?
No, I can categorically say that's not the case. If you came around any of the newer developments in my part of town, in Nash Mills, you'll find that they're exactly the same depth as, from front to back, as the normal curbstones.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? Oh, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, Councillor Bromham. You've got me confused here.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say that a lot of the objections seem to be motivated by the loss of parking in Cedar Walk, and that has been exacerbated by that there's quite a lot of local residents being indignant about the fact that this was built without the planning permission, and it seemed to be done in a slightly underhand way, and also being a bit misleading about calling what had previously been a bike shed with a side gate a garage, which And so I think that has exacerbated this situation. But as far as I can tell, those aren't actually planning considerations. So my question there is the loss of parking in Cedar Walk, losing probably one car space, maybe a bit less, is that a planning consideration?
Yeah, so parking provision is a material planning consideration. We have assessed this, obviously, as I've just stated, we've confirmed that highways have confirmed that there's a dropped curb there. So obviously, with there being a dropped curb, no one can park over that. So we would kind of conclude that there wouldn't be kind of a net loss of parking as such when you're looking at it in that perspective. I appreciate, obviously, people may have parked there previously before this garage was constructed, obviously without perhaps knowing that there was a dropped curb. But yeah, in any event, I mean, the application is obviously for a garage which provides an off-street space. So it's sort of balanced out as a whole.
Councillor Jankowski.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just wondering if you could comment slightly on, I mean, just looking at this objectively in the sort of street scene, I just think it just stands out, by its sort of character. I mean, it's a big sort of white block. It literally just stands out in the middle of the street scene. I was just wondering if you could comment slightly on character, and then whether there are any concerns around use. I take the point that, you're taking one parking space away and giving another, essentially providing another parking space with this, but is there anything preventing applicants from, or future users to, have that as a work from home space or storage space or anything of the sort?
Thank you. Yeah, so just on your first point, with regards to kind of its impact on the street scene, we've kind of concluded that Cedar Walk is quite varied in its architectural styles, and we just wouldn't. Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry, of course. There we go. Sorry, there you go, so you can see up there. Where was I? Yeah, so we've concluded that Cedar Walk is quite a varied street scene, so we wouldn't suggest that this would kind of accumulate to a reason for refusal. And then with your second point with regards to this space being used kind of solely as a garage, I mean, yes, technically it could be used as a work from home space. I don't believe that a condition requiring the garage to be kept as a space for parking would meet the tests. So.
Just, yeah, on the first question, just to follow up, if I may, just, are there any examples of any precedent of similar dwellings and design on the street scene? I know it's varied, as you said, but it just seems to me to, by virtue of its sort of scale, size and massing, just to really stick out from the street scene.
Yeah, so I mean, there are opposite. There are examples of garages. These are not, in fairness, similar to the proposed. They are not in the same materials, and they're set back. I would say this is probably obviously more visually prominent, given that the rear boundary fence has been removed also. It is obviously, I think that's probably why it's perceived as quite a lot taller as well. I mean, so there are examples on Cedar Walk of other garages, appreciate not exactly looking like the proposed, but as I said before, I don't think that we would, well, we've concluded that there wouldn't be a reason for refusal in this respect.
Thank you, Chairman. I can understand where residents are coming from with concerns about loss of parking, but Hertfordshire Highways have deemed that the dropped curb is a lawful dropped curb, and parking in front of drop curbs is not permitted, so therefore there will be no loss of parking. So we already have a proposer in Councillor Madden.
No, I didn't propose it. I said I didn't like it, but I can't see a reason. I don't want to propose it, thank you.
Not a proposal. Anyway, on that basis, I'll propose the officer recommendation. You might want to park that to allow further discussion. Excuse any pun about parking.
Fine, thank you for that. Now, Councillor Madden, do you want to come back?
Yeah, just really to share a couple more thoughts on that. My biggest concern on it would be the cars entering and exiting it, because it's really close to a right-angled blind bend. However, on that bend is a bungalow which has it has a garage immediately in front of it. So the cars on that garage will be entering and exiting the garage literally on the bend, whereas this might be 10 metres from the bend or 8 metres from the bend. So again, I just wanted to sort of, again, bring that back to the table, that I really don't like it, but I just don't think that we've got any legal reason to turn it down.
Thank you. So on that basis, we've got do you have any further comments? If not, we've got a proposer to accept officer's recommendation. Do you have a seconder for officer's recommendation? Right. Thank you. Councillor Riddick is seconding officer's recommendation. Right. So, proposer and seconder. Can I have a show of hands? Those in favour of officer's recommendation, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favour of officer's recommendation. Those engaged? 1. Abstentions? 1 plus 1. So officer's recommendation is carried. Thank you. That concludes the business of the evening.